For 3,000 years, the Western world has leaned on a single foundational blueprint for the hero's journey. The epic poem paints a portrait of a noble warrior and romantic king, surviving the impossible to return to his faithful queen. Christopher Nolan's 2026 adaptation tackles that exact legacy. If you follow the internet noise, you've probably heard about the casting debates and the modern dialogue. But focusing on the culture war misses what this film is actually doing on screen. Nolan builds a grim, psychological deconstruction of ancient warfare, stripping away the romance to look at the ugly machinery of conquest. What happens when the Western world's oldest hero is exposed as a traumatized, manipulative soldier? The film forces us to confront a dark reality. Surviving decades of bloodshed leaves scars. A man cannot pick up exactly where he left off 20 years prior. That version of home is a psychological impossibility. The glamour of the Trojan horse strategy falls apart quickly here. Nolan presents a horrific wooden box filled with terrified men, suffocating in their own waste and panic. Odysseus's famous tactical brilliance is inherently corrupt. Securing a military victory requires cold betrayal, specifically by sacrificing his own allies, like the young soldier Sinon, to sell the deception to the enemy. As the men sail away, the film restructures the mythology itself. These legendary monsters function as psychological mirrors, reflecting the occupying soldiers' own destructive behavior back at them. This flowchart maps the men's cycle: arrival, resource consumption, destruction, and departure. But escaping the cave isn't enough. Odysseus blinds the Cyclops. The chart highlights how ego and vengeance override basic survival. He needs the monster to know exactly who defeated him. The encounters continue to reflect the men's flaws. When Circe's magic turns the crew into pigs, it serves as a direct commentary on the gluttony of occupying forces who consume everything in their path. The director actively strips these characters of their noble status. The soldiers are revealed as an invading plague, completely driven and eventually destroyed by their own bottomless appetites. The film leans heavily into religious horror. The Greek gods are terrifying, unpredictable forces of nature, tearing the world apart to punish human hubris. When Odysseus washes up on Calypso's island, his stranding functions as a desperate attempt to artificially erase his identity. He is a traumatized, amnesiac shell of a man, hiding from his own history. Calypso's lotus flowers represent a seductive offer. Eating them allows a survivor to forget the unbearable weight of guilt and the brutal moral compromises made during a decade of combat. The horror of the wanderings lies in the crushing realization that the soldiers cannot outrun the moral cost of their own actions. Odysseus's physical return to Ithaca carries a tragic irony. To reclaim his throne, he must deploy the exact same battlefield deceit and manipulation he used at Troy, but this time inside the walls of his own home. The men occupying his palace are an entitled, parasitic threat. They have treated the king's household as their personal playground, anchoring their power in cruel domination and the abuse of his servants and son. Penelope has borne an extreme psychological toll. For 20 years, she has endured the agonizing pressure of waiting, effectively trapped by the suitor's occupation and their constant demands that she accept her husband's death. The famous challenge of stringing the bow acts as the inevitable ignition of dormant violence that has been brewing for decades. The ensuing slaughter of the suitors is directed as an explosive, ugly release of 20 years of bottled-up PTSD. All the trauma and rage carried since Troy finally detonates within him. Instead of restoring peace, the hero's ultimate victory brings the brutal bloodshed of the battlefield directly into the sanctuary he spent his entire adult life trying to return to. Through all of this, only his old dog, Argos, recognizes the essential humanity still buried within him. The outer shell is ruined by war and age, but the animal sees the man that used to exist. That reveals the tragedy at the core of the homecoming. The young man who left for war is dead, and the woman who waited on the shoreline no longer exists. Because the father has been permanently broken by war, a transfer of power is necessary. Telemachus must step up to become the new king capable of actually governing Ithaca in peacetime. This sets up the film's major subversion of the original myth. Instead of settling back into their old roles, Odysseus and Penelope ultimately make the choice to leave Ithaca together. This final departure is a conscious rejection of their geographic obligations. After decades of fulfilling their duties to the kingdom and to the war, they choose personal freedom. A soldier can outsmart monsters, and he can survive the wrath of the gods, but he cannot defeat time. By sailing away, Odysseus and Penelope accept the past is gone, finally choosing the future they have left.